And then we're gonna do some scruffy work. Okay, so we're gonna dry out our scruffy really good. If you have another one somewhere, wonderful. Then that way you can play around with your green and your yellows with different scruffies. Otherwise, you really gotta clean it really good, changing colors. So it's usually easier to go from light to dark. So if we want to do all of the light ones first, we can play around with our yellow and orange ones first. Or not yellow and orange. The Pablo and yellow. Just a little bit of white. Not much, because you still want a freckle, right? So you want to have that little bit of darkness so that you can add that little extra dimension. Okay, so again, depending on which way you want to flip things, right? We definitely want this top guy to look like he's coming up to the left a little bit. Right, so we can start our whole base in that direction. Add a little bit more down so that when you're starting to come around in your little freckle, you have some dark in there, a little hole. And then freckle just lightly. Sometimes you can do all the freckling last too, right? So if you want to go ahead and find all of your centers. And again, I'm trying to do this one really small because I want this one to look like it's a little bit more on an angle. And I might have to do some erasing. Play with your colors. Tap a little bit more of a hole in there if you have to. We definitely want to have that Pablo in there to look like it's underneath. Right, this guy has to be behind. And you can always go in and add little shadows or when things are dry. Okay, this one can look a little bit darker. And then this guy here is peeking out too. Okay, so you only see half of the little donut. And then this guy does look like he's facing this way too. But sometimes you have no choice but to follow how you feel with the flower, right? So we're definitely gonna have to stick this way. You see how it just falls right into the little hole there. So now we gotta clean our scruffy really good if you only have one. And pick up your sap and citrus. Okay, more citrus than sap. You only want just that small shadow. And if you want to add a little bit of warmth, or you can, just a little tiny bit. Okay. And then we're going to put in our centers. We want to make sure that these guys are bigger than the other ones. And then this one I want to put my centers in upside down. So the bottom of the center is just going to be covering just where the bottom of the little ribbons are. Okay. It helps to put it in the same direction. Start at the top. More on an oval. Not so much like a circle. These ones are like a really donut, like a real circle. These ones you want to try and be a little bit more on an oval. Okay. Put in that little donut. Add a little bit of freckles of white. Okay. Then we're going to pick up our liner brush and we're going to add some stamens into our poppies. We want to water down, especially if your paint has been out like the whole time. Mine has through the recording. It's gotten probably a little bit thicker. So again, sometimes I like to use water to make like curlicues or little tiny details, and when I want really small lines. Okay, so I'll take off the excess, and then you're only picking up a little bit of the paint. Don't make it too watery, because you want to have control. All right, test it. Test it on a little bit of paper. Okay, so you're just pushing and pulling. And so again, we're just putting some really small ones in the background. And other random. You can make some a little longer, some a little bit wider. Okay, so now I'm coming around a little bit more on my side. Now I want to put in a couple of the middle ones. Maybe one short, maybe one long. Make it a little shorter. Okay, so basically only 3 in there. And again, I'm curling some underneath. Okay, make your little bowl. If you want to add some citrus or more highlights to them, you can too. You can multi-load your brush, especially when you're layering some on top of each other. You want it to stand out a little bit more. Definitely add little highlights on your stamens. Add like little yellow dots on them. You know, there's a couple different variations. But like I said, I'm trying to bump you up, but I am trying to stay a little bit simple for you guys too. See, some of my lines were getting a little bit thick. You know, you definitely need to play with your consistency of your paint. But keep adding water to it and keep an eye on how you're doing. Okay. And try and make sure that they're nice and thin. You can even put a little bit of black in here if you really wanted to have them stand out a little bit more, or darker or lighter. Depends on where you like. Okay, so very, very front. Maybe even tip in a little bit more white. Not too much white. Always make sure your little donuts are dry before you're doing anything if you feel like you're not sure. Improvise a little there. And just gonna float right in there. Some people like to put like dots, or, you know, I'm just trying to make them look a little bit different. Okay, really curly. So you can always add more shading to things, guys. If you want to add a little bit of berry wine, definitely you can always pop in just that smallest amount of berry wine and add a little bit more shading underneath. Always helps to soften. Adding that little extra shading. And sometimes, you know, you can float around a little bit more burnt umber, or if you want to use the your stain, whatever stain color you used. Hardly got any burnt umber left there in that one. And then you're gonna just float in. You take a little bigger brush. You can use your 8 or your 10, whatever you feel comfortable with. When everything's all nice and dry, you're just gonna erase all the chalk so you can see what you got left out of your design. Right, and then you can start making decisions on if you want to pop in a couple more shadow leaves, or, you know, it just depends on what you want to do. Okay, but sometimes you can float some floating medium and some burnt umber, just a very small amount of it, very watered down, And if you feel like you want to intensify anything after, you could always go in and add a little bit more burnt umber around underneath your flowers or underneath your leaves. Right. Always add a little bit more, just in spots. Right? You don't want it to just look dark, because then you could have just done the whole thing dark. But definitely you can intensify some areas. It just helps to add a little bit more filler in spaces if you have a big void or something. I want to find the odd petal. And so you're leaving those light marks in there too. So mostly the shadows are always at the bottom of things. So you can just be selective on where you want to add just a little tiny bit if you want, if you have room for it. Add more depth around your corners still if you want. You know, you can always play around with that as well. If you really want to add a few curly cues, you could. You can always add curly cues. And test your colors. See if you like them. Right, especially off on our ends, we have a bit more room. You know, you can always pop in a couple of light ones. Okay. And then of course, you gotta put your little signature. Just put a small there, and then if you want, I'll put the full official signing and date on the back. Oh, and we do have to finish our little flowers here. Get our 6-pack out again. And we'll go over these flowers one more time. Got a new pile here so we don't get into our brown. Add a little bit more white into it, brighten up that yellow. Okay, so you'll see that you get much better coverage second time. Flip flop and tip. Okay. And tip. We depend on tipping a lot more with smaller brushes, that's for sure. We want to see all 3 colors. We want to see the yellow, the orange, and the white. I see in that one. nice fall colors, even though we're in remembrance design. Still can do some nice warm colors. And one back here. Can't see too much yellow on that one. It's mostly orange and white. We're right on a white flower too, so you don't need as much white, but over here where you have the green, you can definitely tip a little bit more white. Half flower there, peeking over. There. That looks way better now. Okay. Reach a little bit more. Okay, and then we're going to do some dots if we have some dark left there. You can always do like a couple dots, you know, random little dots, or just depends however you want it to look. A couple little taps. Maybe even tap a little white. Oops, too big. Knew I was going to get excited. Okay, not a big deal, just pull it out of there. Okay, even your green, if you wait till your flowers are completely dry, you can always erase them. There. There we go. Alright, so I hope you like this little fun, quick sign. Hope you learned lots, and share your finished designs on the group, guys. I'd love to see them. And don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need any help in any way. May keep all your brushes not drowning in your water until you have time to go and clean them properly. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you again soon.